Climate change activism. A genuine concern for the planet, or merely a sophisticated form of virtue signaling. It's a provocative inquiry, sparking conversations across borders and between differing social groups. A contentious subject indeed, yet it's one that certainly merits our undivided attention. It's a subject that has stirred the pot, ignited contentious debates, and triggered a variety of emotions in people worldwide. Is it a true pursuit for ecological preservation, or just a convoluted way of attracting attention, approval, and admiration from peers? In the heart of this debate lies a stark dichotomy: the altruistic environmentalists versus the cynical critics. On one hand, we have the climate change activists who are ardently voicing out their concerns for the planet. They stand on the front lines protesting, participating in strikes, signing petitions, and advocating environmental policies. To them, climate change activism isn't a charade. It's a solemn vow, a commitment to save our home planet from the devastating impacts of global warming and climate change. On the other hand, there are those who perceive this activism as nothing more than a complex form of virtue signaling. Critics argue that some individuals participate in these movements not because of their deep-seated concern for the environment, but because they want to appear as socially responsible and morally superior individuals. They contend that these activists are simply in a performative display of concern without making any substantial contribution to the cause. This point of contention has bred a whirlwind of controversies. But despite the differences in opinion, it's crucial to remember our shared responsibility towards the planet. After all, whether we are climate change activists or critics, we are all inhabitants of the same planet. Our actions or lack thereof toward combating climate change today will determine the future of generations to come. These arguments, these contrasting perspectives, and the ongoing debate, they all underline the importance of the discourse on climate change. It's a discourse that involves us all, and it's a discourse we need to be a part of. In the next 7 minutes, we're going to delve into this topic and explore these two contrasting viewpoints. On one side, you have those who believe that climate change activism is a sincere and necessary response to the environmental crises we face. This perspective is fueled by the realization that we, as caretakers of the planet, need to lend our voices to those who can't speak for themselves. This means standing up for the rights of the lush forests that cleanse our air, the immense oceans that house diverse marine life, and the numerous species that contribute to the delicate balance of our argue that activism is much more than mere lip service. It is an embodiment of commitment, a lifestyle choice, and a powerful statement against complacency. Climate activists are often seen making conscious decisions to live sustainably. They're seen reducing their carbon footprints in various ways, from recycling and composting to driving electric vehicles or using public transportation. Also, they lead by example, demonstrating that it's possible to coexist with the environment without causing harm. They're not just talking about change, they're living it every day, showing everyone that it's feasible to adopt a more environmentally conscious lifestyle, even in an era dominated by industrialization and consumerism. Furthermore, climate activists are at the forefront of promoting renewable energy. They tirelessly advocate for the use of wind, solar, and hydroelectric power, underlining that these alternatives not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also offer a sustainable and economically viable way forward. They strive to educate the public on the potential of renewable energy, pushing its integration into our daily lives. Moreover, they are constant advocates for policy changes. They understand that individual efforts, while important, need to be complemented by systemic changes. For this, they lobby governments, corporations, and international bodies to adopt and implement environmentally friendly policies. They campaign relentlessly, using all platforms available to them, from social media to public protests, to ensure their voices are heard and policies are changed. This viewpoint asserts that climate change activism isn't about appearing virtuous, it's about survival. It's about waking up to the chilling reality that the Earth's resources are finite, and that our current trajectory of consumption and waste is driving us towards an imminent point of no return. It's about accepting that we've been living on borrowed time, and that the clock is quickly running out. It's about understanding that it's not enough to acknowledge the problem. We need to take decisive action. It's about taking responsibility, not just for our immediate actions, but for the long-term future of our children, our grandchildren, and their descendants. It's about ensuring that generations to come inherit a planet that's not just habitable, but thriving. On the flip side, critics argue that a lot of climate change activism is nothing more than virtue signaling, a term that has gained significant traction in recent years. They assert that many individuals join the climate change bandwagon because it is fashionable, it gives them an upright social standing, and not necessarily because have a substantial understanding or concern about the looming crisis that the world is facing. This perspective is not necessarily baseless. It has been observed that a significant number of people who label themselves as activists are primarily concerned about looking good in the eyes of others, about appearing morally superior. It's as if they use the cause of climate change as a platform to boost their social image, rather than genuinely wanting to contribute towards a solution. They want to be seen as part of the good guys, the fighting for the betterment of the planet, even if their actions contradict their words. Critics further argue that these climate change activists are mere armchair warriors, doing little beyond voicing concerns and advocating for change. They question the sincerity of these individuals, asserting that many of them use their social media platforms to show support for environmental causes without necessarily doing anything substantial about it. They argue that it's easy to tweet about saving the planet or to post Instagram stories about reducing carbon footprints, but actually doing something about it requires a whole different level of commitment. There is also no shortage of examples of the hypocrisy of some of these so-called activists. Critics point to individuals who, while publicly advocating for a green planet, live lifestyles that contradict their activism. They drive high-end gas-guzzling cars, regularly travel by private jets contributing to significant carbon emissions, and live in gigantic energy-consuming mansions that are anything but environmentally friendly. Critics argue that if these people were truly committed to the cause, they would make more substantial changes to their own lives before preaching to others about the need to save the environment. They assert that the real test of commitment to a cause comes not from words or tweets, but from actions, from consistent efforts to live in a way that reflects one's beliefs. Their claim is that if these people were truly committed to the cause, they would make more radical changes to their own lives before preaching to others. So, there you have it. Two opposing viewpoints on climate change activism. This is a topic that has been widely discussed in various platforms, from seminars and academic institutions to social media debates. The question at hand is not only about the validity of climate change activism, but also its effectiveness and impact. On one side, there are those who view it as a genuine effort, a crucial step in the right direction towards a more sustainable future. They argue that these activists are the frontline soldiers in the battle against climate degradation, the individuals who are brave enough to step forward and create a stir. They believe that these activists not only raise awareness, but also influence policy changes, putting pressure on governments and corporations to take climate change seriously and act accordingly. On the other side, there are those who see climate change activism as a bandwagon, a trend that people hop on to feel good about themselves. They believe that these activists are only nominally concerned about the environment, more interested in the social recognition and self-satisfaction that comes with the label of being an environmentalist. They argue that the real change can only come from systemic modifications and not from the sporadic efforts of individuals. The truth, they say, is usually found somewhere in the middle. It might be that both viewpoints have some validity. Perhaps climate change activism does instigate crucial conversations and pressures governing bodies, while also serving as a platform for some to gain recognition and self-esteem. But the real question is, what do you think? Where do you stand in this spectrum of opinions? Is climate change activism an essential push towards a sustainable future, or is it just the latest fad, another form of social posturing? Your voice matters in this conversation. Your viewpoints, thoughts, and insights can contribute significantly towards understanding the complexities of this issue. It is your engagement in this dialogue that paves the way for a more nuanced, comprehensive discussion. So please share your perspective in the comments below. Don't just think of it as leaving a comment, rather consider it as making your contribution to a discourse that shapes our collective future. This isn't just about creating a dialogue. It's about the choices we make, the actions we take, the stand we choose. It's about shaping our collective future. Therefore, don't hold back. Approach this with an open mind, a willingness to learn, and the readiness to engage. Dive in and let's get this conversation started.